Hi all, it's Solo. If you're a fan of games like Pokemon and Palworld, or just creature collecting games in general, there's a new game coming that you might want to keep an eye on. It's called Animo, and after getting the access to the betas and actually spending some time and playing the game, I can see why this game has been getting so much attention. Because Animo isn't just trying to be another monster catching game, it's going for a massive open world, real-time combat, exploration, creature collecting, and one really interesting mechanic called twining. So, in this video, we're going to be covering what Animo actually is, how the gameplay works, and what you can do in the world. What makes it different from games like Pokemon and Palworld, when it's coming out, and what platforms you actually be able to play it on. And I've got the beta game running in the background throughout this video so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, so let's get into it. So what is Animo? Animo is a free-to-play game, an open world creature capturing game RPG developed by Paw Print Studios and published by Kings of Glory. The game takes place in a world called Idyll. Idyll? This is definitely not a small map where you're just walking around from one town to the other. The whole idea is that Idyll is a massive living world that you can explore pretty much however you want. You've got forests, deserts, mountains, cities, caves, water areas, and all kinds of different environments to actually explore throughout the game. And scattered through the world, there are creatures that give the game its name, Animo. These are creatures that you are going to find, capture, train, and eventually battle alongside. But there's a big difference compared to the traditional Pokemon games, because you're not just standing there and giving the creatures commands, you're actually twining with your Animo. This is probably the biggest thing that makes Animo stand out compared to Pokemon. The twining system is basically the game's way of letting you become one of your Animo. When you twine with a creature, you can actually experience the world through that Animo. And this isn't just some cosmetic transformation. Different Animo give you different abilities. Some can help you climb, some can help you glide, some can move through areas that you wouldn't normally be able to reach. And others can give you completely different ways of fighting and exploring. So instead of your creature simply being something that follows you around like Pokemon, Animo can actually change how you interact with the world. And that's something I found really interesting while playing the beta. Because suddenly catching a new Animo isn't just about asking, is this creature like the strongest? Is it the quickest? You're also thinking, what can this actually do? Can it help me reach somewhere I couldn't before? Can I actually make exploring faster for myself? Does it have an ability that's useful in combat? And that's where the creature collecting sort of starts to become a lot more interesting in the game, because the combat in Animo is also completely real time. You're not just walking or waiting your turn to attack. And you've got abilities, movement, dodging, and positioning that actually works when you're fighting in the world. There are two main ways to approach combat. You can command your Animo, like in Pokemon, and let them fight using abilities. Or you can twine with the Animo and become the Animo, and you can take a much more direct role. That means you can actually fight with the animal as the Animo itself. And honestly, one of the most exciting parts of the game is that it's completely different how you see it when it's actually in motion. Because you're not just collecting creatures from a menu, you're actually jumping into the world and using their abilities yourself. There's also elemental matchups, or things like fire, water, grass, and lightning that you have in traditional Pokemon as well, that play into the combat system. So there's some definite strategy involved when it comes to building your team and choosing which Animo you want to fight, especially against bosses. Now in Animo, there's one thing they're really pushing hard, is the open world. The open world is designed to feel like an actual world rather than collecting a collection of different separate areas put together. The exploration isn't just about walking around and looking for creatures. The game has environmental puzzles, hidden areas, treasures, and different ways of actually getting around. Some puzzles can actually be solved by using your Animos to solve them based on their elements. Also, you might come across something that looks impossible to reach, but once you actually fuse into your Animo, you can actually glide, for example, or climb, or interact with some sort of environment that you wouldn't normally be able to do, and suddenly you've got another reason to keep exploring and expanding your collection. There's also a day and night cycle and dramatic weather, which can affect the creatures you encounter with certain abilities. So, for some examples, there are weather effects like storms and rain that you can only catch certain animals in them weather effects, for example. So the world isn't completely static. Different things can happen depending on what and where you are and what is happening around you. Obviously, capturing creatures is a massive part of the game, but it costs Animo. Animo isn't simply just throwing a ball at something and hoping it stays inside. The game gives you different ways to increase the chances of catching a creature. You can approach the creature, the Animo, stealthily, like from behind. You can capture them while they're asleep. You can waken or weaken them during combat and it'll be easier to capture. And you can have better versions of the game capture items. They're called anapods. They're basically like Pokeballs, different rarities of Pokeballs and such. There are also a research system that can improve the abilities to capture Animos. There's also even the capture system is even tied into a wider progression of the game itself. And you can explore and constantly going to find new creatures and building up your collection, which is the main goal, collect them all as such, same as Pokemon. And of course, capturing Animos is not only the beginning of the game, you can level them up, train them and evolve them. And the game has taught multi-branch evolution paths, which is something I'm really interested to see more of, because there was some in the beta, but not a lot. Because it's different evolution paths that actually give you meaningful choices, you could make building your team a lot more interesting. It's not just necessarily just looking for the creature with the highest numbers. You potentially decide in which direction you want your creature to actually develop in. And that's the kind of system that could give the game quite a lot of depth once you get a decent collection going and go towards the end game. So in Animo, you do actually have its own base building system. It's what you call a Sanctum, which acts as your home hub base, basically. You can build in it, customize it, add different features, grow crops and decorate it in the area that you have. So there's another progression system for people who like to build and, you know, explore more than just outside of combat. And if you play games like Palworld, you probably recognize why this could be a pretty important part of the experience. Not because you're not just going out into the world and capturing creatures, but you're also building somewhere to come back to. So multiplayer in this game, Animo isn't completely focused on playing alone. The game has multiplayer and social features built into the game. You do see people in the world. There are social hubs where you can meet other players, and there are co-op activities where players can work together. One example is a Sanctum puzzle, where people can team up and use different Animo to solve challenges in a sort of team-based mode. There's also a game mode I played a lot of, which is Egg Heist, which is a competitive co-op sort of PvP activity where players try to collect each other's eggs while killing each other's Animos and trying to make sure you have the eggs and they don't. This is definitely more here than simply capturing creatures and fighting creatures. There are social and competitive systems being built around creature collecting systems, part of the game as well. So, you know, there's more interaction as well, which is handy. It's what keeps the game alive, right? Now, the gameplay you're watching in this video is from the beta, and it's important because Animo is still in development. I have to stress that the developers have been very clear, and the beta footage doesn't necessarily represent the final quality of the game, the features of systems, and the visuals can still change before they launch. So don't look at this footage and assume every single thing you see here is going to be exactly the same as the full game release. But at the same time, getting hands-on with the beta gives you a pretty good idea of what developers are trying to build. And I think that's what makes the game interesting. You actually see the idea coming together. The open world, the creatures, the twining systems, the combat, the exploration, the base building, you know, the list goes on. And when is the game actually coming out? So this is the big question. So, when can you actually play it? At the moment, Animo is scheduled to release sort of September or Q3 2026. So we're looking at third quarter of this year. So it says on Google that the actual date is around September, the first couple of weeks of September. But there's no specific date completely locked in yet. It's just what's on PlayStation pre-orders. Obviously, they can change it if they need to as well. So even though it says September, it's not 100% on that. And the game is planned to be completely free to play, which is obviously a massive big deal, especially for Pokemon fans who absolutely get drenched when it comes to their wallets. This means you don't have to buy the game up front. You can just jump into the world and try it for yourself. Even if you don't like the game, you ain't lost nothing, right? You can pre-order it, obviously, on PlayStation. I think Xbox as well. But this is like a pre-release bundle, and you get this bundle, which I'm going to get anyway. But it gives you a pretty good set of starting bonuses. Let's just say that. So the platforms Animo is coming to it isn't just coming to Steam. It is coming to PS5, Xbox X Series S, Steam and Epic Store, and the Microsoft Store. It's also come to iOS and Android. Yes, it will be on your phone as well if you like to play on your phone. So whenever you're playing on console, PC or mobile, there should be a way for you to jump into the game when it launches. So is it worth, getting interested in, right? Because obviously we've seen a lot of creature collector games over the years, and after Pokemon we had games like Temtem, Nexomon, Cassette Beasts, Palworld. There are plenty of others trying to have their own spin on the formula, right? Animo is taking a slight different approach, because it's not just simply trying to be another turn-based monster collector, it's going for the full open world action RPG experience. The twining system makes you become the Animo, and it's probably the most interesting thing we've seen for a while, because the developers take real advantage of the system. It could give Animo its own sort of identity in a sense. Imagine finding the creature because you like how it looks and you end up becoming it, right? Then discover it has an ability which completely changes how you explore the world. That's the kind of thing that could make collecting every Animo feel worthwhile in the game, and especially end game as well. So that's Animo, a free-to-play open world capture game, a creature capturing game RPG set in its own world. You've got hundreds of things to explore, creatures to capture, and evolve real-time combat, base build and multiplayer activities, and most importantly the ability to actually become the creature through twining. The game is currently planned for Q3 2026 and release coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, iOS and Android. And because I have access to the beta, I'll be covering more of the Animo as well as we get closer to launch. So if you are interested to see what this game is actually like rather than just watching trailers, make sure you stick around, because I'll be showing actual gameplay, the systems, the creatures, and whenever Animo actually has what it takes to make it stand out from the rest when it finally launches. And I'm pretty curious to see how this one ends up. Let me know what you think of Animo down in the comments. Are you even interested in it, or do you think we've already had enough creature collecting games? And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.